Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome to the specialized workshop organized by Department of Management Studies in fall 2020. Our topic today is a very important topic for logisticians, for supply chain practitioners, for importers, exporters, transporters, all people who are working in the supply chain, trading, manufacturing, importing and exporting, transportation industry, shipping, freight forwarding, all these people who have who are working there, or for you students who are maybe seeking for a career in this jobs later on, you have to understand what is meant by incoterms, international commercial terms. And today we are specifically discussing the latest version of incoterms, which is incoterms 2020. We'll discuss some changes and why incoterms is important, and I hope that inshallah it will be a good session for you. Before we start, do you have an idea about incoterms?
No idea, sir.
No idea. Okay. I think you are working, Mahira? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. But I already reached at home today, early, little bit.
Okay. So it's okay. We're going to explain slowly about the incoterms. As I said, it's very important for you, inshallah. So please try to go slowly with me while I'm explaining. And if there is anything that is not clear, please ask me anytime so that I can clarify to you. No issues. We have 1 hour to explain this. Okay?
Okay.
Inshallah. Inshallah. So first of all, let's discuss incoterms. What is incoterms? Incoterms are terms that are used globally in international trade, that are used all over the world. And incoterms stand for international commercial terms. So if you take the two letters in and CO and terms, they become incoterms. Okay, incoterms are published and amended, updated by the ICC. ICC is the International Chamber of Commerce. International Chamber of Commerce is a very reputable organization which is managing the trade and commerce all over the world for years. Okay? So the basic question that we're going to ask ourselves, why do we need incoterms? Now, if we say that it is terms, what are the terms that we need in trade? In trade, we have sellers and we have buyers. Yeah? Between them, usually, we have an agreement. Can you tell me what do both agree on? What do they agree on? Can you hear me clearly, guys?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, so what do both agree on? Both of them, the seller and the buyer, they agree on a lot of things, including what?
Contract.
Yes, so the contract will include the price of goods.
Price, yeah.
Yeah.
And the delivery terms will be location and the price.
Location.
And for the product also.
Specifications of the product. Sorry, It's better to use paint. So they agree on the price of the goods, they agree on the specifications, they agree
Delivery
on
location, delivery
delivery
times,
location, okay,
and the payment terms.
the payment terms, they agree on the quantity of products,
Quantity. The quality.
the quality or the specs, sorry. They agree on the time of delivery. So between the seller and the buyer, we need to agree on a lot of things. Usually this agreement can be included in a contract of sale. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So someone is going to sell products in exchange for money paid by the buyer. So that's what both need. Seller wants to make sure that he is going to receive his money. Buyer wants to make sure that he is going to receive the products with the costs, with the specifications, with the requirements that he wants. Huh? So in this agreement, we usually use contract of sale. So what is the incoterms role in that? When we say terms, so they are part of these terms. Because if we are going to write down all the details of the contract, then the contract will be very long, very detailed, and it will take too much time to draft, and there will be a lot of conflicts. Why is that? Each one of the seller and buyer, because we are talking about international trade, yeah? What is the problems of international trade? First of all, each one has different language, different culture, different methods of buying and selling. So everyone has different perspective, and maybe there will be a lot of conflicts because we don't understand each other. I am from Oman, he is from China, so we cannot agree. We have a lot of conflicts. I will tell him that usually when I buy, I don't pay for such thing. He will say, no, but in China we do that. So how can we agree? How can we provide uniform contracts? So let's go back to Incoterms. Incoterms are published by the International Chamber of Commerce to provide, number one, a common language. Common language between whom? Between the buyer and seller. So instead of wasting time, instead of having too much conflicts, we want to reduce the risk for conflicts and any misunderstanding. So we want detailed information. For example, who is going to pay for transportation? Okay, who is going to pay for insurance during transportation? Where should I receive my products? Who is going to hire the transporter? Who is going to hire the customs clearance broker? A lot of things we need, a lot of tasks. So how are we going to do that? We need to find common standard language, standard terms that we can all agree upon. So that when we use those Incoterms, we will reduce the time and efforts for drafting detailed contracts. So they are uniform rules that applies everywhere. It means it doesn't matter if you are from Egypt, from China, from France, from USA, from any country in the world, you're still going to understand the same language because you are going to use the same rules which are used everywhere. So what does this Incoterm include? Usually it includes the responsibilities and costs of each party. What should the seller do? What should the buyer do? What are the responsibilities and how much will he pay? So again, let's give more clarification. So if the seller is here and the buyer is here, if you want to buy something, okay, from a seller, which is another city, what you're going to do, you're going to agree on the price. So the seller will tell you, you can take the product with 10 1 riyal here in my city, or I can provide transportation for you, okay, and you can receive it in your doorstep, at your doorstep, with 12. So the price will increase because I am responsible for transportation. So the pricing itself is different. Can you understand this?
Yes, doctor. It's same freight charge, no?
Same like what?
Freight charge?
Yes, yes. So here we added the pre-chart. I'm just giving simple explanation. So there are other details. He can tell you, okay, you are buying those stuff. I'm going to make people fix them for you in your apartment, for example. And this will cost you additional money. So the more responsibilities the seller has to do, the more costs he will charge you. Buyer can say, I will buy it with 10 riyals and I have cheaper transportation that can cost only 1 riyal. I can do it by myself. So I don't need to pay 12. The total cost will be 11. But I will be responsible for the transportation here. So if something happened to the product while transportation, I already received it, خلاص. So what happens if there is an accident? Can you go back to the seller and tell him, you are responsible? In this case, no. Yeah? You understand?
Yes, doctor.
Because you are the one who are responsible for this, because I delivered already. So there is also delivery points. Where did the seller deliver the buyer? And this is very important to understand, because seller can deliver the buyer here or here or here, and the more responsibility, the more costs incurred. So Incoterms, most essential terms for sale and purchase of goods. We have two key players. We usually focus on the seller. We are having the seller's perspective, okay, in all Incoterms. So they help in filling a purchase order, sales contract, purchase contract. And instead of listing all these details, what does the price include? We will just mention 3 letters like EX words, FCA, FOB. So when FCA is saying the seller has to provide the cargo in that location and he has to pay so and so and so, all this can be avoided by mentioning only 3 letters. So because they are uniform, they are known, and everyone is using them already. That's why. Okay? So they will decide the obligations. Who does what as a buyer and a seller? Identifying that party responsible for the costs towards what? We have carriage, transportation, insurance, packing, labeling, all this stuff. Who is going to pay for them? So without Incoterms, we'll be in trouble because we have to agree in everything. But if we say we use FOB, خلاص. So FOP is the one which is used, and this is the one we are going to apply in our contracts. Also, the risk. When does the risk and how does the risk transfers from the seller to the buyer? Is it when he delivers the buyer or when you deliver someone that the buyer sent, like transportation, when exactly and where exactly. So Incoterms, they explain set of 11 most commonly used three-letter trade terms. So they are based on the trade practices already. They are based on the trade practices that sellers or buyer are doing. That's why Incoterms is updated usually every period, like 10 years. We have Incoterms 2020. The previous version was Incoterms 2010. The previous version was Incoterm 2000. The previous was 1990, 1980, I think 1976. So we have different versions according to what? According to the trade practices, according to what's happening in the markets, how people trade. That's why ICC keeps updating them. Obligation, who does what between the buyer and seller, who organizes carriage, who organizes insurance, the risk, as we said, when and where the seller delivers the goods, when the risk is transferred, and also costs. Which party is responsible for various costs like transportation, packaging, labeling, unloading, and others. But the Incoterms are not contract of sale. We understood this. Incoterms are part of the contract of sale because contract of sale will include other details like the payment term, like the sanctions and penalties in case of being late, the specification of the goods, technical specifications. They are not Incoterms, they are part of the contract. The time, place, and method of currency of payment, remedies when can be sought in case of breach of contracts. What if you didn't provide the products as a seller? So buyer, according to the contracts, can impose a term in the contract so that you can pay remedies and penalties, as well as consequences of delay and any other breaches in the performance of the contractual obligation as well. Effects of sanctions, imposition of tariffs. Tariffs is according to the custom authority. So there's HS code for each product, which is something else we need to discuss later on. So it is not part of Incoterms as well. Import and export prohibitions, force majeure, okay, in case of accidents, in case of floods, volcanoes, in case of earthquakes, in case of ships wrecking, anything can happen. What will happen then? It is not mentioned in the Incoterms. This is something else. Also, intellectual property rights, method, venue, or law in case of dispute resolution. This is part of the contract. At the end of the contract, we will find if we don't agree, if we have any problem, we can go to which court exactly, okay, in order to find the resolution for our conflict. Most importantly, it doesn't deal with transfer of property or title or ownership of the goods. This is not part of the Incoterms as well. So far, do you understand?
Yes, doctor. Doctor, I want to know when the EX works.
Yes, we
This
will
is for
discuss
what
that.
actually?
Don't worry, we'll discuss that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So some changes in 2020, they became different a little bit. The Incoterms, there was one in 2010 that delivered at terminal is replaced by TBU, delivered at place unloaded. There are new insurance requirements, we'll discuss them. You know, insurance is different contract because usually if you insure for transportation, during the transportation of the products, there are some covers. Covers of insurance are different. Like you insure for your car, you insure for your house. So the more risks you insure against, the more the money that you're going to pay. Okay, so usually the insurance was only minimum cover. Now they made it available that you can choose different covers in your insurance plan. Also, free carrier, which is a term, will allow for bills of lading to be issued after loading. Okay, we discussed that as well. So let's go. Yes, also the cost allocation is stated more precisely, more specifically now. Also, some security obligations are now more prominent. Let's go to the incoterms and understand each one. Now, the first one, EX works. So before I explain that, I want to tell you how they are organized. So we have some groups for incoterms. Incoterms, as we said, there are 11. So firstly, we have first group is called main carriage. Yes, they are called here departure. Okay, then we have main carriage unpaid. Then we have main carriage paid. Then we have arrival. What do you mean, mister? Let me draw a line like this. Between the seller, between the seller and the buyer, there is transportation process. Okay? So what happens in this process, during this process? We have transportation from point of origin till the port of exit or port of origin. Here we have port of exports. Here there is port of imports, okay? Or we call it port of loading, and this is port of discharge. So like this is Jeddah, and this is Sohar, okay? So the seller is from Riyadh, and the buyer is from Muscat. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor, yes.
So this part, we call it pre-carriage. This part, we call it on-carriage. We need, usually we use here land transportation, trucks, okay, road transport for pre-carriage and on-carriage. It can be also river transportation, it can be railway if we have, but I'm talking about this case, it will be road transport, yeah? Okay, guys? So here also road transport. In between, we will have what we call main carriage. Main carriage can be anything also, but in this case, let's assume that it is by sea. So it's called sea transport or ocean transport. So there will be a vessel here that carries containers, for example. Excuse my bad drawing. And containers, one of these containers is ours, shipping the products from this customer to this customer, from the seller to the buyer. So the ship will arrive in Zohar port and then will be transported by truck. The container will be transported to the buyer's premises in Muscat. Okay? So the first part of Incoterms, the first group, is called departure. Departure, it means that the seller will just be responsible for this area. He will not go beyond that. The seller is not experienced in shipping and transportation. Okay, so the first one, he will say that I will sell in my premises. EX works, it means after my premises. If this is the seller premises, so it's going to sell here. Yes.
You in other slides, sir, I think.
You can see the slides or not?
No, not the first one. Which one you're drawing? This is the other one.
Okay, let me. You didn't see the drawing?
Yeah, it's
Did
okay
you see this?
now. Yeah, no.
Did you see this before or didn't see it?
No. It's okay. Only few seconds you start the other slide. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So now EX works. It means that the seller is not responsible for anything. He will just manufacture the products and sell them. How is going to sell them? Where is going to sell them? Is going to sell them here. EX works after his premises, as you can see in the picture. So this is why it's called departure. So the seller is not responsible for anything. No transportation, no pre-carriage, no main carriage, no on carriage. All this transportation and carriage and insurance and everything that happens is just the buyer's responsibility. Okay? So here, the cost of product will include only the production costs, production price. You get it?
Yes, doctor, yes.
Okay. So because of that, the seller is not responsible for anything. So the buyer can use all the modes of transport. He can transport sea transport or roads or air or railway. Any mode of transport can be used because the seller will only say, I will sell it in Riyadh. I'm not responsible for anything. You send someone from your site, you hire someone to take the products, and I'm not responsible for whatever to come. So customs clearance, shipping, transportation, everything is on the buyer's side. Even export formalities is on the buyer's side. So the buyer usually hires a logistics company that will take care of the whole process. So far, so good?
So far, so good, sir.
Okay. Now, we are moving on to the next incoterm, which is still in this group, which is called departure. Now, the seller is going to do one extra thing. So, there are two options. Free carrier here, FCA, free carrier. After free carrier, you will send the name and place of delivery. It means that the seller is going to deliver the products to a carrier, and the carrier is nominated by the buyer. So if the buyer sent a truck to the seller is going to load the products on the car. This is one way to do it. Or the buyer will ask the seller, please ship the car or the truck or the products or whatever, by truck or whatever, to an airport, for example. Because I hired a carrier, I agreed with an airline to transport the products to my place, to my nearest airport. So this means that you have to transport the product till you deliver them to the carrier. Can you understand? Can you understand?
For me, it's okay, sir.
Okay, and this will require you to do what? Because you are going to deliver the products on the airports, you have to do the proper customs formalities. It means customs clearance and documentation will be on the seller's side. So the risk will be transferred here, cost will be transferred here at the same point. Okay, this is what we're discussing every time, risk and cost. So if the plane crashed, it is the responsibility of the buyer, not the seller, because the seller already khalas delivered the products. This is what means by risk. Okay, transferring risk. The third one is called free alongside what? Ship. So if it's ship, it means that the only mode of transport that can be used is sea transport. Because it means that you have to deliver the products alongside the vessel or the ship. So you have to deliver the products to the carrier, which is nominated by the buyer. So the buyer will assign carrier, transporter for the main carriage. And this carrier is going to be responsible for the main carriage transportation. So it means that the seller has to transport the products to the port and do the customs clearance formalities. This is the point of risk transfer and cost transfer. Whatever happens after that is the responsibility of the buyer. Did you understand?
Yes, doctor, just one question I want to know. From
Yes.
the beginning, after seller will hand over this all materials to the shippers, okay? By ship. Who will be the responsibility if any damage happen in the
Because
middle?
the risk will be transferred when the products are alongside the ship. So whatever happens afterwards is the responsibility of the buyer.
Okay.
See, we have points of cost transfer and risk transfer. So it's the same point here when the products are alongside. So we have in the first group, we have e-exports, we have FCA, we have free alongside. Sorry.
FOB. No?
FCA, FAS, and FOB. This is the second group. So the fourth incoterm would be FOB. FOB here, free on board. What does it mean on board? It means that only additional cost was now on the hand of the seller, added to the seller's costs, which is loading onto the ship. So now the products, handling costs, loading costs in the port of origin or port of export is also the responsibility and cost of the seller. So who hires the carrier? The buyer. Buyer hires the carrier for main carriage. Transportation till we reach the port is pre-carriage, is by the seller. Customs clearance for export is by the seller. Loading charges is also paid by the seller. Once the products are on board the ship, that's why it's called on board. Once the products are on board, it means on the ship, خلاص, it is the responsibility and cost of the buyer to do whatever happens next. The buyer will bear all the cost from this moment onwards. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay.
So this second group is called main carriage unpaid, because the main carriage is not paid by who? By the seller. Seller is not paying the main carriage. So the next group will be main carriage paid. So it means that seller was going to pay for freight costs. Freight costs is going to be paid by the seller. So it means that the seller, the risk will be here also. Seller has to deliver the product on board the ship in the port of origin, port of export, but he is going to pay for transportation, for freight costs, for the main carriage. Main carriage is paid by the seller, but the risk is transferred when the products are on board the ship. Okay? You understand? That's why it is called cost and freight. Cost and freight. Name the port of destination. CFR. Any question?
No, doctor. Thank you.
Second one is called CIF. Now there is something additional that happened here, additional thing which is insurance. Cost, insurance, and the freight. So the seller will pay for the cost till the products arrive the port of destination. Risks will be transferred when the products are on board the ship at the port of origin, but also insurance for main carriage will be paid by the seller. So the seller will have to contract and pay the cost of the insurance against the buyer's risk. Although that the seller, the risk was transferred to the buyer here, the port of origin, but insurance has to be paid, okay, by the seller. So instead of paying, as we remember the previous example, the 10 reals became 11, became 12. So the more cost the seller has to pay, the more the price, the higher the price will be of the product. Do you understand? So it's called, it's used in pricing. It means that the seller will tell you what do you want to pay for. I have EX-box price, FOB price, CIF price. Which one do you prefer? If you are not familiar with international trades, you can pay the CIF costs and you will pay everything till the products arrive in the port of destination. You get it? Those two modes, because we say that the products will, that the risk will be transferred when the products are on board the ship, so they are used for only water transportation, for ocean transportation, or sea transportation. So we need some modes that will do the same purpose, okay, but for other modes. So we have carriage paid to. Carriage paid to, in this case, it is like the FCA, free carrier, plus the freight costs. So here, the seller will deliver the products or the goods to the carrier or another person who was nominated by the seller and pays for the whole cost of transportation of the main carriage. Okay. Seller has to also do the customs clearance for export. Buyer has to do the customs clearance for import. They are used for any mode, usually air, usually railroad, it can be used, and also truck, because ships, they are usually for ship transportation or for ocean transportation, we usually use the FCR and CIF. So CFR and CIF for sea transportation, CBT and CIB for all modes. CIB the same, but adding what? Same like CBT, but adding the insurance. So carriage and insurance paid too. So this group is called main carriage paid. We have cost and freight. We have cost, insurance and freight. We have carriage paid to. We have carriage and insurance paid to. So now we have 1, here 3, 4, and 4. We have 8. So we have another 3 in the arrival. The more we go down like this, we have more obligations for the seller, more costs will be paid by the seller, the higher the price of the products. Okay. The second one, the next one, it's delivered at place. Delivered at place, here, the seller will deliver the products at the place of the buyer, on the arriving means of transport, ready for unloading at the named place of destination. So here, the seller will tell you, I will ship these products by maybe truck transportation, by road transportation to Oman. All the risks are going to be on me, all the costs are going to be on me. So this is different from the previous ones, because the risk here is with the seller till the products arrive, not on board the ship or not to deliver till we deliver the carrier. Another one here, delivered at place, unloaded. So what is the difference between this one and this one? Unloaded. The products are unloaded from the truck. So it means that the risk will transfer to the buyer when the goods are unloaded from the arriving means of transport and are placed at the disposal of the buyer at the named place of destination or any agreed points. So this can work also in any mode. The seller is liable to unload the products, and also the buyer must arrange for import customs clearance and custom duties. The last one is DDP. DDP, delivered duty paid. Duty is the custom duty, the tariff cost, custom duty which is paid at the end. So it means that even customs clearance for import, even transportation till everything happens is on the seller. Seller will pay everything. Seller deliver the goods when they arrive at the place of disposal according to the agreement with the buyer. He has to clear for import, export and import, of course, on the arriving means of transport, ready for unloading at the named place of destination. the seller will bear all the costs and risks involved in bringing the goods to the place of destination. Everything, even the custom duties, even the storage cost, everything. So here it's like door-to-door transportation. It's the maximum cost that the seller will bear, and here the price will be very much higher than e-exports. Compare it to e-exports, where the seller will do nothing, will just pay, you just pay for the product cost itself, till you arrive to DDP, where the seller will do everything and the buyer will only pay for all the services which will be performed by the seller. So in delivery we have delivered at place, delivered at place unloaded, and DDP. You see the difference between e-exports and DDP. If the price here is 1, the price here is 10 for the unit of the product. Because the more things you do, the more cost. So e-exports represent the maximum obligations by the buyer, the least obligations by the seller. And DDP includes the maximum obligations by the seller, the least obligations by the buyer. So those are the terms that can be used for any modes of transport. E-exports, FCA with the 2 variations, CPT, CIB, delivered at place, DPU, delivered at place unloaded, delivered duty paid. All these can be used for any mode of transport. While the modes, the 4 modes that we mentioned, FAS, free alongside ship, so it has to be ship, free on board ship, CFR, it is the same like FOB but with adding freight cost, so cost and freight. CIF is the same like CFR but adding also insurance, so it also has to use ship. The problem comes in those terms because the risk is transferred here, port of loading, but the cost is paid till port of discharge. So some people get confused, cost with risk, which is different. So sometimes the seller will pay for the cost of main carriage, but he is not responsible if the ship sank or had accidents. This is the responsibility of the buyer because risk is already transferred. So those are the 11 incoterms that are used worldwide. This is the latest version. I tried to be provide briefly explanation as much as I can within the short time that we have. I hope that you managed to understand. I will leave some room for questions. So you can ask questions now and I will try to answer you. Do you have any questions? Okay, did you understand incoterms? Did you manage to understand?
Yes, doctor, it's great. Thank you for the clarification, sir. And your time also.
Thank you, Mahira. Glad that you managed to understand. And as I said, this is very important for you, for your career, for your life after the college. You have to use incoterms. You are either working procurement, so are going to buy and sell internationally, working in shipping and transport, so you're going to apply the rules, working in insurance, so this is your also your area, even working in banks, because banks are responsible for that and somehow as well, working in ports, terminals, so you have to understand them. What to say, working freight forwarding and logistics activities, you are going to use them, warehousing. So whatever you work in logistics and supply chain fields, you have to understand incoterms. I hope the session was good for you. Thank you very much. And if still you have any questions later on, you can text me, you can send me emails or messages here in MS Teams anytime. I'll stop the recording now. Thank you. Thank you very much.